Hello and welcome to the 5th episode of Devlog. In this series, we're building an ambitious payroll SaaS from scratch all the way to our first customer. In this episode, we're going to continue on with some dashboard tickets. Alright, let's take on our first feature ticket and build a salary history display for the users. To start off, let's go ahead and create a salary history component that we'll display on the dashboard. In this component, we want to grab all of the users' salaries and display them using a map. Let's go ahead and create a few salaries for a test user and see what they display on the page. Nice, perfect. The issue with this approach is that we cannot use an async component within the dashboard page. So let's just move the Prisma query logic into the dashboard and simply pass the results into the component. Alright, hit a refresh and we can see that this works again and TypeScript is no longer upset. With the basics outlined, we can start adding some styling to the component. Listen, come here. Believe it or not, styling this took me 2 days. Okay, so 2 days. So instead of going through the styling line by line, let's do a quick montage instead. Let's also add a currency attribute to the salary model so we know what the currency is when we're formatting the numbers. For now, let's support the Canadian dollar, the US dollar, the euro, and the British pound. That's enough montaging. Let's do a drum roll for the final result. Isn't it absolutely beautiful? Look at this. We have the timeline indicating each new year, the individual cards with the date, salary amount, and the increase from the previous salary listed. Oh my goodness. Look at this. It even works with any screen size because it scrolls when it overflows. Copyright. And it becomes vertical on the mobile view. Dude, someone just hire me already. And of course, if we change the database entries, we can see that the component automatically updates and lists the new data. Here's all the styling that was required for this. It's so much. I've never had class names this long before. Look at this. We can add some extra salaries to the list just to see how it behaves when there's a scroll bar. It handles it well with a nice gradient on the ends to hide the edges. While working on this ticket, I realized that the need for localization had crept up much sooner than expected. These salary amounts need to be formatted with respect to the currency and the user's local language. So let's throw a new ticket onto the board and set up a localization. The first thing we need to do is install the next-intl package. From there, we can go ahead and put everything from the app directory into a locale folder. This is how the app will determine the current locale, and once the locale has been determined, the package will link to its corresponding messages file. So let's go ahead and create one for English and one for French. And this is straight from the documentation. We'll want to create an i18n file and paste in this code, which is what determines what messages file the app will use. To get this to work, however, we'll need to install the beta package that works with server components. and we'll modify the next config file to export the config with this logic that we've implemented. A new middleware file will handle detecting the locale, and we'll set our supported locales to be English and French, and the default to be English. And let's go ahead and ignore auth files for now using the matcher. Lastly, we can grab the locale in the layout file and determine that it's valid, and if it is, we'll pass it to the HTML. Let's make sure the app still works, and it does. Very cool. Alright, let's test it out by importing the translations context and display the title message we added earlier. Alright, so in the normal domain, hello world is in English, and if we switch to /fr, we can see that it changes to the French bonjour world. Perfect. Now, to improve the user experience, let's add locale and country columns to the user model so we can immediately determine and set the locale. Let's add these to the session data so we can have them on page load. Let's go ahead and commit our changes so far before doing more work on this ticket. I realized that if the locale and currency do not match exactly, like EN denotes America while the currency is Canadian, the formatter attaches the currency. This cannot be prevented, so let's move our currency from the right-hand side and double down on the formatter. While we're here, let's also translate the component's title. We can see that in English it's your salary history, and in French it's votre historique de salaire. Incredible, goosebumps, wow. Alright, it's looking great. Let's test it out with the USD currency. And we can see that the symbol is removed. Very nice. Localization is finally complete. I know it looked pretty straightforward and quick, but it took me a while to figure it out. Now we can add some improvements. In the layout file, we can grab the user's locale from the session and redirect them if they aren't already on their own locale. We can see that with this test user, it's going to keep me in French until I change the database value to English and hit a refresh. And lastly, let's translate the dashboard's greeting message. It's honestly very cool how the messages work. We can create a subset of dashboard called greetings and set that as the default for this use translations. Then, whatever message we pass it, it would automatically append dashboard.greetings before it. And in the message file, we can see that we simply put a greetings object within the dashboard object. Very clean indeed. Alright, in English we have good evening Farzan, and in French, bonsoir Farzan. And that's it for this episode. We got quite a bit done. We put together an entire beautiful component that displays a user's salary history in a timeline format. In addition, we also set up a localization for the project which will allow us to translate the app for non-English users. I hope you enjoyed this episode. In the next one, we'll continue working on the dashboard and implement some more payroll logic. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe to keep up with the progress and see where this project goes.